Now that everyone believes the music scene to be completely dead ever since, like, say 2021, when Yeet, Sofago, Ken Carson, and Destroy Lonely now have moved on to the mainstream, and so there really isn't much, at least perceivingly, going on SoundCloud, like a movement of rappers who are all blowing up simultaneously, making news and just the scene more interesting. Because right now we all have already heard all of the rappers from 2021 or even earlier tuning into the same repetitive sounding albums, because quite frankly a lot of those rappers already fell off or just remaining stagnant and will never move on to the mainstream for a reason. They're stuck in purgatory, if you will. But with all that being said, we do have another set of new rappers on SoundCloud that I believe are like the next wave, although I'm not sure completely if they're all gonna prove themselves, but they are who I'm listening to on SoundCloud and who pretty much own the entire feed, at least in the space that I'm looking into. There's of course gonna be like a whole plug-in B side with Lil Shine and among other rappers that I'm probably aware of but just can't think of at the time. But again, similar to the whole Ken Carson, Sofago, Yeet wave in 2021, this I believe is like the very beginning of the next wave, especially because of how similar the sound is to one of the rappers who was in the last wave, that being Destroy Lonely. For we always talk about how the last lane was like the rage generation or whatever, using like electronic / rock elements within their instrumentals and music due to Whole Lotta Red, Mr. Rage from Trippie Redd, as well as Off the Map by Sofago. However, this time it looks like Destroy Lonely imposed his influence on the next generation, by which all of these rappers are kind of rapping on like distorted ambient 808 instrumentals. I guess it would be considered grunge, but it isn't as abrupt, like it's kind of chill in a way. Now I believe Destroy Lonely has kind of moved on from that, and I'm seeing even elements of this ambient 808s in other rappers' music as well. So it's not like this type of music is super underground, but like they take it to the max. But let's get into the list of rappers. As we probably all know, the next rapper that everybody's looking to take over the scene and actually just finally do something, because he remains relevant, similar to like Cardi and Ken and Lone, without even saying anything online. Allegedly he was in the military and then Ian Connor had to get him out. We don't even know if he delisted or if he's taking music seriously, but he has been seen at different fashion shows overseas with Filthy, Starboy, like all the opium people. So he may even sign over there. But allegedly, like a lot of the rappers that we're going to discuss today are managed by Ian Connor or Sicko, but that's all just speculation based on Ian Connor's Instagram stories and tweets. This rapper is Hard Rock, who I'd say actually started blowing up in early 2022. I remember on stream we reacted to a couple songs like God's Hands and Hardcore Drugs and Fuck Off. Like he had a bunch of bangers. Not to mention he had this kind of opium aesthetic, which of course is super popular, but I thought at one point it was going to be potentially a detriment, because when you're not signed to opium but you're also rocking their sort of aesthetic, even though they didn't necessarily come up with it, it's just wearing all black and Rick Owens and designer, right? But now that he's actually affiliated with Ian Connor or Filthy, whoever he's actually signed to, he could end up being with opium. But if you're with them, like you're almost allowed to do it and nobody can say that you're biting. So once Hard Rock actually finally releases something, because he's kind of gone into a big hiatus and he's got that rare factor to him, because again, we don't even know where he is, what he's doing. Is he even in the studio recording music? But when he does drop, that shit is gonna blow up. I already know. So that's kind of who the top dog in this new underground is. He's not that big yet, like I'd say only 30K followers or so on Instagram. But again, he's really not even that active on social media, nor does he drop music that often. So when he does flip on that switch, it's off to the races. And then because he has a lot of friends on SoundCloud that he collabs with, who we're also gonna discuss, they might blow up with him, just as every single generation of rappers does. We just need that one leader. And underneath him, also strongly associated with Ian Connor and the Sicko Collective, are Rolling Thrax, Southside Silhouette, and Lifeless Garments, also formerly known as Vamp League, which I've already said many times was a great move to change his name from Vamp Leak because, of course, people are gonna say, and we're saying, that he was biting Playboi Carti's style, even though technically he didn't come up with vampires. That's been around for millennia. And then Space Ghost Perp with Raider Clan, like, he had a lot of vampire imagery, but still, it's just good to stay clear away from anything, especially when you're dressing in this dark aesthetic, and even in the similar genre of Destroy Lonely, who is Opium, just to eliminate any ammo that fans will have to say that you're biting another artist. But as I was saying, these three artists actually dominate SoundCloud, not necessarily just numbers wise, but also their feed, because what these artists do is something that I spoke to Dom Corleo about on a stream a few months back, where they send a lot of throwaways to hosting pages on SoundCloud. So essentially, even if they're not dropping music on their own platform, like their name in SoundCloud, these hosting pages will be doing it like every single day. It feels like I find a new song by them. And then of course, when their name is always in the feed, you're just gonna drive up awareness of this artist. Some songs are gonna blow up even though they're throwaways. Your name is gonna be strong in the algorithm for SEO. It's just a super smart and organic way to blow up nowadays. Hopefully I didn't give away the sauce, because now everybody's gonna be start flooding hosting pages, but I do just have to appreciate the marketing strategy behind it. As I was saying though, Raw and Thrax and Southside Silhouette, they're bigger than Lifeless Garments currently. I feel like Southside Silhouette is actually super versatile. I've heard so many different types of songs, not even just on this lone wave that we were discussing before, but even on glow beats, on slow songs. I really think that he's next up. And Raw and Thrax is actually potentially my favorite artist other than Southside Silhouette now, because I've grown to like him more because of his versatility. But there was a period of time where I was strictly listening to Thrax. He almost takes like the best part of Destroy Lonely's music, increases the power level to 100, and then they each have their own little ad-libs that are cool. Like Raw and Thrax has but similar to what I was explaining to before, they kind of have like this grunge element to their music. Lifeless Garments is actually a little bit more, because he was once a fan of Space Ghost Perp, so he's got like a funk type of influence to him. You can definitely hear the alternative influences in his music, whereas Thrax and Southside Silhouette are more on the pure hip-hop side, if that makes sense. Like, they're not messing around necessarily with all the guitars. They're kind of more trap type music, but on the new sound. And then another name that I see always in my SoundCloud feed is Until Japan. I'm actually pretty hit or miss with him. Sometimes I feel like his vocals aren't mixed properly, or he does have some good songs, but I just don't know if he's as consistent as the other four rappers that we've already talked about. Like, sometimes he is on the same grunge wave as the other artists we talked about, but then sometimes he's on a completely different sound. Like, I just don't know what his signature sound is necessarily, so I just haven't gotten hip to it yet. And then I'm gonna throw y'all one last SoundCloud rapper who I think is actually fire. Maybe not doing the same amount of numbers as the other rappers we discussed, but still I think he's really good. Nerd 1K. He kind of reminds me of like a T-San or a Lil Uzi Vert, where he's got like melodic trap vibes to him. He's not necessarily doing this Destroy Lonely wave is doing with the ambient distorted 808s, but it's fire and I like it. I've known a lot of these rappers for the past 2 or 3 years. They just kind of missed that last wave where everyone blew up, and I don't know when this one will start, because again, we don't know when hard rock is going to come out of hiding like a groundhog. For all the other music listeners that have been bored the past couple of months because there really hasn't been many interesting artists coming out, I thought I would share, even though a lot of y'all already know these people. But if not, let me know what y'all think about them in the comments, or if there's anybody else I should be looking into. It's been your boy Bobbalam signing off, leaking hard rock's divorce papers so he has to come out of hiding. Make sure to like and subscribe on the Bob Gang if you with it. Peace out, people. Nothing.